back to Peachy's World. So excited to bring you guys the Easy Way Out Part 2. If you guys have not checked out Part 1, go back and watch that. That's where I express my own personal thoughts, feelings on VSG being the easy way out. But this time, Part 2 is kind of focused on how you deal with comments and judgments and opinions from other people. Because I think, as I mentioned in the other video, there's two sides to this. There's how you feel it is, and then there's, other people's comments and judgments and stuff. So, as usual, I do have a list of everything that I've kind of jotted down that I wanted to discuss in this video. It's not an all-exclusive list. I'm sure some things will be added to it. Probably left some things out as well. But there's a couple of topics I want to dive into and just kind of express. I'm going to keep it pretty direct and raw in this video because it is a subject I'm pretty passionate about. So let's dive right in. All right, so the first bullet point I have on this video is how to separate out the uneducated versus ill intent. So I'll kind of dive into that and explain what I mean by that. When you have VSG surgery and you're telling other people about the surgery, whether you just had it or you're going to have it or you're thinking about having it, you're going to run into people who are just not educated, or they're curious about what VSG is, vertical sleeve gastrectomy, and what led you to that decision. Now that can come across in various ways. So my recommendation on this particular bullet point is you got to read that conversation that you're having with that person. Is that a positive path or a negative one? What is your relationship with that person? You can tell from their tone, their body language, kind of like what direction that conversation is going in. So kind of know your audience a little bit so you know whether you're dealing with somebody who is uneducated and curious versus someone who's just applying judgment and ill intent in their comments. So an example I can provide of this is an uneducated or curious person about VSG or how that's going to affect you may ask something like, well, what is one of the reasons why you started looking into that? Or how is VSG going to help you with your autoimmune issues? Another example, my best friend's mother, love her to death, some of the sweetest, loving, heartfelt people I've ever met in my life. She asked, well, how is that going to help with your thyroid? Now, that's a pretty direct question, but I absolutely knew that the intent behind that question was coming from a very good place. So I didn't read into that or feel negative in any way. It was positioned nicely. The tone was great. Good relationship and rapport with that person. So just dealing with the education portion on that. Now, on the flip side, a judgmental comment or an opinion or something said that's coming from an ill intent place might come across like, why don't you just remove whatever from your diet and learn how to exercise? So you see the difference in that tone or how it's positioned or how it comes across. So understand your audience and your relationship with that person and try to understand, is it coming from a curiosity place or even a place of concern? Or is it just coming across as a judgment or an opinion, as if they know something is better for you than the path that you've chosen? So really separate those two out so you know really what you're dealing with there. The second bullet point that I wanted to cover is choose to inspire and educate rather than be defensive if you choose to discuss. So in your VSG journey, if you want to explain it, go for it. If you are looking to educate people and they're curious about it, go for it. But also understand too that you don't have to defend your choice. You don't have to justify your choice, and you don't need to seek approval for your choice. Because the number one thing that you need to remember is that you are doing VSG for you. You are the only person going through this physically, mentally, and the only approval that you need is to be at peace with that decision in your own heart. You don't need other people's approval. You don't need their negative opinions. You don't need to justify while you're doing it if you don't want to. So if the conversation is turning negative and you don't want to engage, then don't. You don't have to explain yourself. Again, this is for you. So understand, that conversation, how it's going, and choose if you are going to inspire and educate or if you're just going to walk away from that conversation. Because, again, the only person who needs to be at peace with your decision is you. All right, next bullet point. And this kind of ties into the previous one because I said if you choose to discuss. So if you don't want to discuss it, like I mentioned before, you don't have to. Take ownership of your own power and your decision and choose not to have that conversation. If they're pushing, you can say, I'm choosing not to have this conversation with you. This is not something I feel comfortable talking about, or I don't feel like this conversation is going in a positive direction. Can we change the subject? You can handle anything, with some grace and dignity and, respect within the conversation. You don't have to get mad or rude with that person, but you can just ask them to, let's discuss something else. If they keep pushing it, you may have to remove yourself from that situation because some people really push and are very opinionated and very judgmental in your decision. And to be quite honest, do you need that right now? And the answer is no, you don't. So take that ownership in yourself and know whether you're going to stand your ground, have a conversation, or if you're going to walk away because it's negative and you don't want to have this conversation. So feel good in that choice. Take that power within yourself. One of my other bullet points here is people are going to have comments and opinions regardless. So it doesn't matter if they fully support you, they don't support you at all, they're somewhere in the gray area in between. Everybody is going to have an opinion or a comment about your decision. Even having no comment is a comment. Like they're not saying anything to you, so they're not engaging. They don't care if you have it or whatever, or even how you're doing. So ultimately, it isn't my business what other people's opinion, what their opinions are of me. It just isn't. They're going to have that opinion regardless. And it isn't my goal to change their opinion of me or change their judgment of me. They're free to have those opinions, those judgments, their stance on it. That's their right. That's their freedom in it. But it isn't my job to convince them differently and to get them on my page. It just isn't. Because the focus is on me and that I'm comfortable in my decision. I'm comfortable in the direction that I'm going. Now, one thing that I wrote down that I was kind of chuckling when I wrote it down is that understand that the people who are going to have comments and opinions regardless, especially some of the more negative interactions, understand that those people don't walk in your shoes. They probably don't want to, and they're going to criticize your footwear anyway. So that's just basically saying, even if they were walking in your journey, they're going to complain about it anyway. So you don't need that negativity in this journey. You don't. So again, they're free to have those comments and opinions regardless. You're going to know very quickly who's in your corner and who isn't. So you focus on the positive. Comments and opinions from close friends and family. Most of the time it's coming from a good place. It may just be said wrong or come across a kind of different way than you're used to having an interaction with somebody. Try to just handle that with some grace and positivity, because those who are really close to you most of the time are not saying their comment to come from an ill place or ill intent. They're really just, concerned. Are you making the best decision? Um, have you exhausted all other means? Again, just curious about what's leading to this decision, or what have you tried that hasn't worked? So again, separating out how you interpret that conversation. Is it just coming from a place of curiosity and understanding your decision, or is it coming from somewhere else? And the last bullet point I have on this one is to cut off your haters. Um, as I mentioned earlier, you don't need that negativity and hate in your life, especially on a journey that's going to be so transforming, not just physically, but emotionally. You need support during this journey, from start to the rest of your life, because it is life changing. And they can't bring positivity to you. Then it may be best to distance yourself from that individual or that group of people. You really want to embrace positivity and support during this, and not feel like you have to be defensive with other people or beg for their support or attention during this. So feel confident and secure in a decision to cut off your haters. Even on social media, there's going to be people, again, who always have opinions and always have comments. You don't have to engage with those people. You don't have to listen to what they have to say, especially if it's coming from a bad place. So I know a lot of this that I covered was rather quick, and it was pretty raw and direct. But again, it's a subject that I do feel very passionate about. I haven't experienced a lot of this directly myself, but I have known people who have experienced it. I've known some people personally, as well as some social media contacts and, people that I subscribe to as well, who have unfortunately faced a lot of negativity, a lot of haters, about the journey that they've gone through, which is really sad, because we're all going through a transformation after getting VSG, and it's really about just supporting that person on their journey, whatever their reason for getting it is. Having those comments don't do anything to sway the other person to move in that direction. It just is an attempt to make them feel bad for bettering themselves, which is just not welcome. So my heart really goes out to them for handling that. A lot of them have just handled it with an amazing grace and positivity, and just being the better person. It's been really inspiring. So, my hat's off to them for handling it so well. A quick message to my viewers, especially anybody new to the channel who's thinking about getting VSG. You may be just in the beginning processes, just thinking about it, doing something similar to what a lot of us do, which is to kind of search through YouTube and find other people who've been on this journey as well. Just know that here on this channel, whatever the decision that you have come to or came to with your friends, your family, your surgeon, your doctor, maybe just you, whatever it may be, you have support here on this channel. Regardless of the reason, regardless of the type of surgery that you're having for weight loss or for autoimmune or whatever the case may be, you are supported and cared for on this channel, and you do have a friend here. So if you do need to reach out, feel free to comment, or on my Instagram or Facebook. You're welcome to reach out there as well. You definitely have support here. Even though I may be a stranger to you, you definitely do have support here. So feel free to reach out. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to wrap this up. Rambled on for long enough. But I do know that next week, the next video coming up is my 6-month sleeversary. Super excited to share that video with you guys. So stay tuned, and remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notification, and thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week.